with no further ado, we'll be handing over to Paldeep Singh Atwal. Thank you so much, Paldeep, and we look forward to hearing about what's happening within the genetic space.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to talk. So I'll just want to confirm you can see my screen, okay?
Yeah, it looks good, Paldeep.
Okay. So yeah, you can see my screen and slides.
We can.
Okay, great. So I'll just let me try and make this a bit bigger. Yeah, there we go. So I'll just start by giving an outline of what I'm going to talk about in the next 10 minutes, and it's really the trends in commercialized testing. And I'm going to be focusing on the consumer-initiated space, which is a very new hot topic space. My background, as you've already heard, so I'm a clinical geneticist, and I currently serve as medical director of genetics at PWN Health. I have an additional background in internal medicine before specializing in genetics. So the first thing to get across to the group is the current trends in genetic information really has the opportunity to affect billions of people throughout the world. The scale that we're seeing is really unprecedented in terms of the testing opportunities and what we can do with this information. Really unlike anything else we've had in modern medicine. A couple of reasons for that. One of the big ones is the cost of DNA sequencing is just rapidly decreasing, far faster than Moore's law of computational power, for example. In addition to that, there's increasing interconnectivity and sharing and collaboration of information and data that is, it's called the so-called Internet of Genetics is emerging, where this interconnectivity allows us to have a just a quicker and broader understanding of things. In addition, there's this machine learning aspect where we find something's relevant to a disease. We don't know why it's relevant, but clearly based on genetic analysis, it is relevant. And so it becomes a reverse engineering problem, and we figure out why it's relevant to the disease state from a kind of back to front approach. In the community itself, or in the general psyche of the population, there's a big interest in genetics, from things like human longevity, from carrier testing to obesity to Alzheimer's to cancer, just many things. And obviously some of these things have some relationship, some have strong relationships than others. But there's just a lot of interest in how genetics can help either manage or predict or estimate risk of these things. If we look at the historical approach to testing, we look at finding high-risk populations of patients through targeted family medical histories. This typically is in an office-type environment with a geneticist or genetic counselor. There's pre-test discussions, post-test genetic counseling in that environment. There's health plan genetic testing policies in place that involves some back and forth, and then there's utilization management. There's many barriers here, such as the cost of interpretation, cost of sequencing, infrastructure, provider knowledge, business models, and the pace of research as well, particularly in multifactorial conditions. So let me just switch this up. The future approach is looking at more population level, healthy exome, PGX, focused carrier testing, we're beginning with a consumer payment model because insurance doesn't cover this type of testing, and that's really proved to far exceed our expectation. And I'll get to those some numbers for that in a moment. Just a little background on PWN very quickly. It's a company that has a virtual care model where we provide oversight of consumer-initiated testing. It's different to direct-to-consumer. People often confuse the two and think they're synonymous, but they're really quite different. In direct-to-consumer, there's no physician, no genetic counselors, and only really FDA-approved tests, whereas the consumer-initiated landscape involves physician oversight, genetic counselor, geneticist expert support, and it's all done in a kind of virtual environment. And the testing is a laboratory. These are laboratory developed tests, so they don't require FDA approval. Obviously, there's the traditional market, the physician market, the office visit, and these types of models. One of the biggest considerations is the balance between access and safety, or safety and access. So with that, there's a couple of key considerations for any test. Tests should be useful and of interest and valid. They must be able to be explained in a consumer-friendly, engaging, and compliant fashion. There needs to be access to appropriately licensed clinicians for the test and for follow-up care. And the test must be reviewed to make sure the consumers are getting the right tests. And then they, again, should be personalized, and the communication should support such actions. So at PWN, we have a 50-state network of physicians and counselors. We have a robust infrastructure support, technology support to enable scaling and care coordination. So we're well served to help provide access to these tests. Some market research here. This is just a slide about consumer interest in genetic testing. The summary is that about 1/4 of the available market is likely to go for DNA testing in the next month. And that's very broad. It can be, the definition of DNA testing is actually varies, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a moment. Our estimation is the opportunity for consumer genomics in the US exceeds 3 billion. Taking these numbers into account, UBS also estimates that 18 million Americans are interested in clinically actionable consumer genomics, and we put the market size at 15 million consumers. The average consumer paying about $199 puts the market opportunity at 3 billion. So it's a big market. Where are we today? So the current clinically actionable landscape, we can see these kind of ancestry-oriented type tests, and the positioning is kind of fun, low-risk testing, whole genome SNP arrays, and these kind of price points. And this is typically direct to consumer, very high market penetration, very good marketing there. So the Helix marketplace, again, more kind of fun and exploratory, although there are adding some more clinically actionable tests. Pricing is varied, and then the market penetration is also varied as well. Single disease states, medically actionable, powerful, validated. We're talking about carrier testing, pharmacogenomics, cancer testing, that kind of thing. These are physician ordered, and the market penetration actually depends on the labs and many times. And then the kind of more larger comprehensive exome genome, more expensive, has to be physician ordered, and due to the expense, really less market penetration. It's just another way of showing the growth of US consumers buying a DNA product. You can see that the estimations are year on year significant growth. One important aspect in this is the price sensitivity, if you will. You can see that at a test at $99, 85% of individuals surveyed here by UBS think it's affordable. 199 goes down to 62, and then 1 and 2 at 300. So there's a fair amount of price sensitivity here as well. So just to summarize all of that very quickly. So consumer genomics is growing, is a growing but nascent multi-billion-dollar market. Consumers want innovation. They're willing to bypass insurance to get the testing they want. There's really an unprecedented opportunity to implement state-of-the-art tools to improve diagnostic yields, population screening, and medical management. And I think it's a very, very exciting area. I'm very happy and feel very lucky to be in it. Happy to take any questions now or later. This is my email. Feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you so much, Paldeep. And I know we're going to open up for questions. We already have a couple of them coming in for you. We'll hold to Q&A. I think something that really resonated amongst a lot was 25% of the addressable market is looking to or will likely take a test over the next 30 days. I think it really speaks to how, by nature, the market's moving towards more a state of prevention and proactiveness, right, versus wait and see. And so I think that's a nice tie over. So kudos. Thank you very much, Paldeep. Very well put together.